How's it going, reinventors? I want to show you how to deal with nosy people. It won't be rude, but it will be effective. My name is Amelia Sims. This is Reinventing You. I've been vlogging for over a year now, and one of my most popular videos, I can't believe this, is how to deal with answering questions from nosy people. And I don't know why this one video has been so very popular. I look back and go, oh, I cringe every time I watch it, but obviously it means something to you. So I wanted to redo this video with sort of an update and some of the thoughts that I'm having now that I've been retired for almost a year and been vlogging for just over that period of time. This video will help you, give you those 4 ways that you can deal with nosy people. One of the difficulties that I have faced is that a lot of people do not understand why I retired early from a full-time ministry position. I have had this reaction from people who have been former church members, from people in churches that I've never served, and from other clergy persons. They just don't understand, and so a lot of times that's where the nosy questions have come from. I thought some of this would sort of die down, after a year, but it hasn't, and there's been a lot of anger, especially among other clergy women. There has also been continued anger in the recent happenings with our denomination, so of course the nosy questions just continue, and I have to also deal with it because my husband is still in active ministry. This has been a problem that I continue to have to deal with. All of these questions that people have for me, how do I answer them? Sometimes I've done really well, and other times I'm like, what did I say that for? So when I give you these ways to handle nosy questions, they come from the heart. They come from where I really am dealing with. I mean, not that I've made up anything beforehand, but because I've had another year to continue to work on all of the busyness that people want to get their noses into, or my busyness people want to get their noses into, that I really know what I'm talking about. Before you can deal with nosy people, you've got to understand them. That doesn't mean you have to crawl into their heads, but you kind of get an idea where they're coming from. Most of the time, nosy people are those people who have remained unchanged while you have changed. What I mean is you've either come to a realization because of something that has happened to you, an age issue, a mental breakdown, a loss of some kind, maybe a combination of those things, a huge change in your work or your family. All of those things have created some kind of change in you, and you realize that you need to make a change. You need to reinvent yourself. And so nosy people are those people who either have never had to face that in their lives, or they have faced these things and yet remained unchanged. They've just decided just to sort of bury their heads in the sand and go on. So part of what's going on with nosy people is that they see you as sort of a challenge. They want to get you to see things their way, or they don't want to have to take any time for their own self-reflection and try to figure out why they are not reinventing themselves. And certainly some people are just busybody, and some people just want to tell you what to do and are controlling. But I think it's something not just about you, it's something about them. In family systems theory, they would basically say something like, the issue is not the issue. In other words, the questions they're asking and the things they want to tell you to do is not really the issue. They probably don't want to look at themselves or take any time for any self-reflection and try to figure out, well, maybe I should reinvent myself, or I should make some major changes in my own life. So there are 4 ways to handle when people ask nosy questions. When you are confronted with a situation where a nosy person wants to tell you what to do, or is constantly trying to figure out what's going on. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you quitting your job? Why are you on this diet? Why are you leaving your spouse? All those kinds of questions that you get with nosy people that basically are none of their business. The first thing is that you have got to be prepared. You have got to have a canned answer. In other words, you've got to sit down and figure out what you're going to say to different people. Now, it may not be the same answer. For me, I remember people asked me why I retired early, but now it's more like, well, what are you doing with yourself? or maybe even, some people say, how are you enjoying retirement? I think that is a legitimate answer, but sometimes I use my canned answer in those questions too, because I just don't want to get into it. Depends on who the person is. That's kind of your thing. You've got to say, well, if these people ask me this, then I'll say this. And if these people ask me this, then I'll say that. So you're just going to have to plan ahead what you're going to say. For instance, I might tell people, depending on the person, somebody I might say, oh, I'm just so enjoying my retirement. I'm busier than ever. I'm glad I'm able to spend more time with my family, etc. For others, I might talk about this vlog. I may talk about what I'm doing on YouTube and other areas of my life. I'm actually taking on a part-time job, so I may also share that as well. It just depends on who is asking the question, but in either case, I have got a planned answer. The second thing is, don't get personal. And that is in two respects. First of all, don't take their nosiness personally. Don't take their criticism personally. Don't take their control issues personally. As I've said before, a lot of times what they're asking you and what they want to know and their controlling nature is not about you. It's more about them. It's more reflection on them. So first of all, don't take it personally in those situations. But also, don't get personal. I have a tendency to tell people, even strangers, more personal details about myself than I really should. I tend to just have verbal diarrhea, just, let it all spill. But I have learned in this case, when people ask nosy questions, not to get all that personal information. That's why you have that planned answer. The third thing is just to say no. And here's an example. I had somebody recently, what this person was saying, well, on your vlog, I think they called it my video, but they say, you need to take prayer requests and pray for people and everything. And I would just listen to them and said, well, that's an interesting idea. I didn't go into the fact that's not what this vlog's about. It's not what I feel called to do. I realized I should have said no. I should have said, I think if it had been anybody else but this particular person who's sort of I won't say this person delicate, but I knew that saying that would not be a good response to this particular person. But when I came back from the situation, I thought what I should have said was, no, I don't think so. That doesn't really sound like what I'm trying to do on my vlog. I think that may be a good idea for you, but it's not a great idea for me. Learn to say no, whether somebody's asking you to do something or wants to tell you how to do something. Just learn to say no. And you don't have to say it rudely. Just say no, thank you. No, I appreciate it, but no, not at this time. And the fourth thing is that is very helpful to do, especially, you've given them the planned answer, you've said no, you have got to put a stop basically to further questions. And the way to do that is to turn it around and ask them questions. Part of that is having another planned question and an in-depth question. It could be anything from well, how are your children doing, to I hear your son is about to graduate from high school, where is he going to go to school? Or if you reinvented yourself, if you were able to retire early, what would you do? Or if you had could live your dream vocation, what would that be for you? Anything like that. You have to think about maybe 3 or 4 different things that you can say to somebody to ask them a question back that will get them talking. And if you know the person very well, like a family member, and those usually end up being the most nosy people, it's a little bit easier because you can just say things like, well, I heard you were in this new book club. What kind of books are you reading lately? If you can get the person to reflect on them, you have done a great deal. And let me tell you, who out there doesn't enjoy talking about themselves? Now you know how to deal with nosy people, but you really can't do that until you have that planned answer for folks. And sometimes that takes some practice as well. So you have to got to create a planned answer, and then you got to practice it. And there's nowhere better than our private Facebook group called YouTube for Reinventors. It's a group where you can say, here is my planned answer. What do you guys think? And that way you can kind of not talk it out, type it out, but you can really kind of get that answer going and be thinking about it and have some, responses from other people who are going through a similar situation, and they might give you some advice or helpful ideas for what to say. You can join this group by clicking below. Just click on that link, YouTube for Reinventors. So how do you handle nosy people? In the comments below, please give us your advice. Maybe you have a different answer or a different way you approach people or handle people who approach you. Please, I would love to hear it. So drop a comment below. And I just want to bring out some of the videos I've had, like this one up here, my most popular one, or maybe even this one over here is another video that I've had. And you can also see this video up here. And as usual, my lovely face is how you can subscribe, click on the bell notification, and like and share.